Welcome to Game Changers live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. All right, and welcome. Happy 2021, everybody. Welcome back to Game Changers live from Miami, Florida. Wherever you may be and wherever you may be listening from, you can catch us each and every week on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live coming up soon, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening, wherever you like to listen. And so if you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel. Definitely follow, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to hear it. So my guest today is somebody very special, a very good friend, and a tremendous game changer, not only in the South Florida community, but around the nation and the world. It's Saif Ishoof. He's Vice President for Engagement at Florida International University. Go Panthers. Saif earned his bachelor's degree in Foreign Service from Georgetown University and his Juris Doctor from the University of Miami School of Law. So right now, he really guides the university's participation with K-12 partners, economic development agencies, industry partners, social enterprises. He's a senior fellow in the Stephen Green School of International and Public Affairs. And previously, he served as the executive director at Tigera, an organization that we all know does tremendous things. And under his leadership, the organization more than doubled in size and scope, going from 8 to 18 schools, from 82 to 200 AmeriCorps members. His professional career includes being a startup technology entrepreneur and an executive in agricultural and engineering companies. He earned his bachelor's degree in foreign service, as you know, from Georgetown. His personal and professional life has really been defined by a commitment to developing young people, building civic institutions, international dialogue, and entrepreneurship. He was recognized by the Miami Herald as a 20 under 40 leader in 2010, was named 2010 Diversity Leader by the American Jewish Committee. In 2012, he was named the Thurgood Marshall College Fund Leader of the Year. So he has tremendous, and these are only a few of the accolades. We're not going to go through all of them. But a great one is that he was named the 100 most influential people in Miami in 2011 and 2012 by Potter Magazine. And very important, Father of the Year by the American Diabetes Association. And so welcome, Saif. It's great to have you on Game Changers, buddy.
Thank you so much, Sergio. It's an honor to be here. And the fact that you are a Super Panther, an alum that we are so proud of, everything that you've done, building businesses, and now your tremendous focus on building leaders and helping to amplify their stories. Who better to do that than you, Sergio? So excited to be here on Game Changers.
Thank you, Saif. Appreciate it, buddy. So you have had a tremendous career, tremendous life. Let's start off the bat. What has been the game changer in your life that has caused you to have such success? I mean, what are those principles that you live by that create that?
So I think that's a great question. I think that it comes down to a couple of things. One, first and foremost, is family. I feel very blessed in having foundational support from my parents. And then later on, of course, with the beautiful woman that I married, my wife, Amira, we've been together over 20 years. So family is one key pillar of that. Another component of is community. I get tremendous joy, energy, and support from the community around me, my friends, my mentors, really the ability to learn and grow with others. And then the final one, I think that's been a game changer for me, which we'll talk about over the course of the discussion we're having, is the belief that I have in the power of a growth mindset. I'm infinitely curious. I'm always trying to absorb new things, listen and learn from others around me, as well as taking my time to do the homework, reading up, listening to podcasts, watching as much stuff that's out there, and then taking that knowledge and trying to practically apply it to the issues and the challenges in the world around me. So I would say those are the things that have been the bedrocks of my trajectory and the things that I really focus on that I think have helped me approach things with a transformative lens.
So with so much success that you've had in your life, you have an uncanny ability to seem so grounded and so down to earth. You know, you could be standing next to the president, but at the same time, you can be joking with, you know, a 12-year-old and understanding what's going on with that, you know, with the 12, 13, 14-year-olds on TikTok and on Twitch and everything else. How are you able to keep up with everything and play on different levels like that and just kind of constantly switch back and forth?
So it's a great question. I appreciate you honing in on that. I mean, for me, it's joy. I have a life philosophy, Sergio, which is that I take my work very seriously, very seriously. My team knows it. I'm very fortunate to work for an extraordinary leader in the form of Dr. Rosenberg, as well as FIU's provost, Dr. Furton. So I take my work very seriously, but I don't take myself overly seriously. So it means that I think on the other side of that, if you take your work seriously, but you don't take yourself too seriously, you can unlock the joy in the people around you. And I think that if you channel that joy, it means that you can have fun in different moments, even when you might be wrestling with something that's truly challenging. And it also allows you to have a greater sense of intentionality and clarity. So that's what it is. I also think the generational piece is I'm a Gen Xer. So Gen Xers, I like to say, we're like the universal Lego piece. We're straddling from the folks who might be older than us, that might be boomers, all the way down to Gen Z. So we're constantly providing this generational translational tool to those around us, because a boomer to manage Gen Z would not work well, and vice versa. So I think that there's a generational edge that some of my friends and colleagues that are part of the Gen X generation that we just kind of came up with. And that's where we straddle these universes between the 12-year-old to somebody who might be significantly older than us.
It is interesting because we grew up without cell phones. We grew up with basic, you know, some basic Nintendo and Atari, which was
Exactly.
astronomical. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we grew up essentially without those forms of communication. And then now we know what it's like to be on the other side. So it is a unique perspective for sure. So you mentioned not taking yourself too seriously. That's a really interesting topic, because I know for myself and others, I've sometimes find myself or I've found myself in the past thinking that I need to play a certain role. I need to act a certain way, let's say in my job at work, and then be myself at home. And I think a lot of people struggle with just being themselves in their work, in their career, because there's some vulnerability there, right? As will they, you know, will people think differently of me? Will they not accept me? Will they think that I'm not professional? When you're just trying to be you. And that's when you can be at your best, is when you're in your authentic self.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Years ago, when I led City Year, there's an extraordinary young man that served on one of the teams that we had at City Year. And he's actually subsequently gone on to do a lot of great stuff here in South Florida in some youth ministry work. And so he had this line, which wasn't really a faith-related line, but he used to say, vulnerability unlocks relationships. And so we think about what is the glue that brings us together that much more. And it's our ability. You said it, you know it, Sergio, and I know that you embody this in your own life's journey, this idea of authenticity. And it's hard, right? Because sometimes we just let people know I'm dealing with something. I might have an elder in my family that's not well. I might have a child that's dealing with a health issue. Or today's a cloudy day. I've been struggling with sleep. I think it's important for the circle around you to open that up. And if you're in a leadership role, I think it allows the people that you are charged and responsible for them to recognize that we don't have to be Wonder Woman, Black Panther, and Superman, that we can be a much more vulnerable version of ourselves. And from that, we can build something together that's a lot more powerful. It's hard. It's not easy. When you're young in your career and maybe you're straight out of college or just out of grad school, you want to put on the mask of excellence and professionalism. And I think part of it is for those of us who are charged with creating leadership environments, I think it's signaling to people it's okay not to know. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to have to take some time out to navigate some work-life balance. And we as leaders have a responsibility to signal that. And I'm fortunate that I work with someone and I work for somebody in the former President Rosenberg who believes that that's central to being able to build the real glue in teams and efficiency and effectiveness, which is really trust.
And authenticity is so important these days, and it's an attribute that people are looking for and they're gravitating to. We see it on social media quite a bit, where just people are raw, they are putting themselves out there, they're not polished, and that's what works. And we're also seeing that in the workplace, right? As you're saying, people want to feel valued, they want to feel accepted for who they are, and have people believe in them. So how important is it in your life, and you've seen this in leadership roles, is having people breathe life into you, right? Having your leaders breathe life into the employees and see things in them that they perhaps don't even see in themselves. And how important is that in terms of personal development and growth?
I mean, I think that that's everything. Being able to see someone, reaffirm them where they are, is in many regards the essence of leadership. And the idea of acknowledging and reaffirming the dignity of another human being, that's so much of what everyone is actually looking for. We look at times toxic discourse that might be happening in the public square, and we realize that so many people are looking for that form of reaffirmation of the dignity of another, even if there might be divisions, even if there might be disagreements. And when you bring it back to leadership environments, I think that that's the essence of it. I mean, all of us know those leaders that have made us feel larger than our own selves, have made us feel the fullest metal of our human potential, and contrasting with leaders that make you feel small. Transformational leaders, if you think about leaders like Nelson Mandela, if you think about leaders that have achieved extraordinary things, you think about figures from the world of sports, right? I mean, everyone remembers the leaders on the basketball court that lead the league in assists. That means that that's somebody who's willing to help others score, right? And I think that that's so much of what it takes. And I think those are the people that we celebrate forever and ever. And it's our responsibility to then try to figure out how we amplify and accentuate that is what we want as far as our leaders in all forms of society, business, and even in the family environments around us.
What advice would you give to people, young people coming up that are graduating now, starting in the workforce, to practice that, right? Because they may not be in leadership roles, but they can see themselves as leaders and practicing these forms of acknowledgement and recognition of people's effort as a way to practice leadership. You know, what advice would you give to them?
I would say get in the game. So I think what winds up happening is that sometimes young professionals, they're seeking out mentors. And there's no doubt that mentors are important. But I say to them, get in the game, get out there, right? So if you're a recent college grad, find a way to get involved in a local program in your community. Be a little bit less focused on the development of self and be more focused on the development of others. And when the world recognizes that's who you are, you're going to wind up feeling the gravitational pull of others that wind up saying, oh, I saw that young lady. I mean, she's always out there. She's volunteering at a halfway house, or she's very involved in her local house of worship, or she's involved in maybe some issue-based cause around climate change or some other domestic violence. And then they wind up saying, well, you know, who should play a leadership role? Who should be somebody we should be seeking out? And if you had a choice between the young person that's just trying to collect mentors as if they're Pokemon cards, contrasted with the rising leader that when you spend time with them, they're talking about how they're leaning in, how they're digging into the world around them. And they're also showing a sense of curiosity. I think that C word of curiosity is so important. So I would say to those people, and I definitely advise a lot of the rising talent that I work with, both our FIU students, recent alums, and other young professionals, get in the game. Don't wait for anyone. Part of the disruptive world that we're operating in is that you don't have to ask anyone's permission to get in the game. And that's really the essence of what this discussion space that you've created, Game Changers, about, which is like, let's do it. As we say in Miami Spanish, dale. Let's get at it. Let's get at it and not wait for permission.
That is so true. And you know what you say about having that intention of giving to others, because it is gonna come back to you. But you have to have the intention to, the honest intention of, listen, I'm gonna help develop others. You're developing yourself, and good things are gonna come back to you. And like you said, getting in the game is so important. I see a lot of people who are just waiting for all the green lights to change at the same time so that they can go. It's never gonna be perfect. It's never gonna be, all nobody's ever ready for kids, right? Perfect example.
Absolutely,
I'm
yeah.
going to wait till I'm older so I'm ready. Yeah, right. You're never going to be ready, but you got to
Yeah.
start. You got to start. And like you said, to your point on the growth mindset, making the mistakes is just part of your process, part of your learning curve, right? So we're on with Saif Ishoof, Vice President for Engagement at FIU. And so let's switch gears a minute. Miami has been a very exciting place to live. There's a lot going on in this in the city. FIU has been a tremendous part of this community growth and the future of it. We've seen the mayor bring in a lot of excitement around tech coming down to Miami. Tell me a little bit about how you see this developing out over the next 3, 5, 10 years.
So I think that we are at really a precipice of another version or the next chapter of our community. And I don't say so with fanfare or with hoopla. It's really a function of the slow build of what's been taking place in South Florida over the last number of decades. So let's take a quick step back. So the key elements of what makes a tech hub are pieces that have been slowly moving into place. So one, of course, is talent. So we know because of institutions like our FIU, which are graduating world-class graduates at scale in those fields that are in high demand, in computer science, in engineering, in graphic design, in the life sciences. And many of those talents, as we've described, and you know this because of your friends, and you've played a leadership role in some big global companies like Caterpillar and others, many of those forms of talent and that are coming out of our community, they'd left and they'd found opportunities in LA, Chicago, Silicon Valley, New York, and they've spread their wings and they've been very, very successful. So the first component that's been sequencing over the last several decades is talent, right? So that's one piece of it. The second one, of course, is this aggregation of capital. Florida tends to be a great place for people to live. It's not just the quality of life, which we know is great, and the culture and the weather and all of that, but Florida, by nature of its tax structure, doesn't have a state income tax. And that's important. And many of the cities, if not all of the major cities, do not have a municipal income tax. So on day one, for a holder of capital, they give themselves a pay raise just by moving to Florida. So that's consequential for businesses or for entrepreneurs. So if you align those first two components of talent, the next one is around capital, right? And then you start to get into the other pieces of the puzzle that really matter. In a globally interconnected world, in Miami, you could jump on a plane, you can be in Europe in under 7 hours, you can be anywhere and everywhere in Latin America, in the Caribbean, in under 5 to 6 hours. I mean, 5 to 6 hours if you're going all the way down to say Montevideo, but you're within a zone. So you've got an East Coast time zone, all right, American East Coast time zone, a short hop over to the to Europe. Now, because of other air routes, you can get to the Middle East, you can get to Dubai, you can get to Singapore. Well, Singapore is much further away, but you can get to these other big significant hubs. And then the Tri-County area, and I like to say the state of Miami, which goes from Homestead all the way up to say Kissimmee, Key Largo to Kissimmee, right? You're talking about a mega state of about 10 million people. It's the largest, most diverse, majority foreign-born. More than 50+% of those folks speak a second language. So you're talking about a global hub, which then sits physically astride in the United States with American rule of law, norms and practices, the best of many, many cultures. And so when you align all those pieces, you really start to, whether you think about it in terms of like a paella, or if you think about it like a spicy Haitian pickle, you realize that we've assembled the pieces of talent, technology, capital, and a transformative culture. So it's go time. So it means that now as others are realizing what's happening in Silicon Valley. It's very expensive to build a company out there. There's a significant competition for talent, as well as some of the challenges that might exist in New York and in other places around taxing structures, or even the desire for quality of life. We've got a phenomenal K-12 school system here, both public school systems as well as private offerings, charter, and everything in between. We then present ourselves as a tremendous template or space within which builders, both founders and funders, can align. And I think that that's the confluence of forces we're now seeing in South Florida, and why we're getting some really, really big names saying, let's take a second look at Miami, and maybe we should move some of our portfolio companies here. We need to hire locally. I had one tech company come in recently and say to me and my team, we want to build an entire paid internship program, and we're probably going to wind up hiring 10 paid interns. And this company only moved to Miami 3 months ago. So that's what's happening. That's the momentum right now, as we say in Spanish, ahorita. It's happening now, in this moment, in South Florida. And it's on us to make sure we're building pathways so as many people in South Florida can benefit from this. So this is not just a east of US 1, north of Coral Gables phenomenon, that this is a Miami proposition that stretches from Homestead to Miami Gardens and all the communities in between, and that everyone is going to be able to have a seat at that opportunity table.
Wow. And so we have the, the geographic, the demographic blessings, right? The geopolitical, we're in that perfect storm, so to speak, and the perfect spot to grow this talent and so forth. What role do you see FIU playing in the growth of the tech scene, and how integrated are we going to be?
I think FIU is central. I mean, I think that the thesis that I've laid out there, that's at play. It's not even a thesis. It's the algorithm that's locked and loaded to the Miami machine right now. I think it's that FIU is going to continue to be, we're an R1 research university. We've got world-class faculty that are engaged in the commercialization of research that's happening because of our extraordinary researchers and entities within FIU, like Startup FIU, led by my good friend and colleague, Emily Gresham, as well as our faculty members that are out there that are on the cutting edge of cybersecurity, climate change related research, and a range of other subject matters, water resource management, both our preeminent research areas and our emerging preeminent research areas. So FIU is going to play a role as far as knowledge production. On the other end, it's our talent, it's our students that are coming out that are so game day ready. I mean, even some of the companies that have been here a while, like Florida Power and Light, we're the largest outbound source of Florida Power and Light's engineers. So much so that our president, Dr. Rosenberg, and FPL created a relationship a number of years ago where we're the only university campus in the state that actually has an inbound customer contact center on our campus, which means students are able to work at FPL. It's a relationship between the student and FPL directly, but they're able to do so on campus. It's a great paying job, and it winds up becoming a significant recruitment pipeline to Florida Power and Light, which is a great company in our region. We've got similar relationships with companies like Royal Caribbean Cruise Line and an on-campus shared use training facility at our Biscayne Bay campus. So I think it's around commercialization of research. I think it's around our talent. And then I think it's also around the role that our alumni are playing. I mean, our alums are plugged in. I mean, they are creators, folks like yourself. We think about people like Kanasha Paul and what she's doing with the Black Professional Network, to folks like DJ Irie. I don't want to start shouting out all of the extraordinary alums that we have, but these are creators, these are builders. Many of our folks that might be first gen like myself, or even children of immigrants, or even native born, they have that instinct within them. They have that genetic disposition as a function of our community to hustle and to build. So I think that those key pieces, when they align, I think are magical. And I think when you add into it that we're at a moment where usually in environments around enterprise and startups, you have ideas chasing capital. Now, because of some of these inbound funders, we have a paradigm where we've got capital in pursuit of ideas. And I think when you have that, It means that you start to align, and when those market efficiencies take place, it means boom, we can create great companies, and we can make sure that South Florida winds up having multiple unicorns, or as one of my friends says, iguanacorns, which are billion-dollar valuation companies. That we can be a place that does that, and that many people will play a role in that. We think about FIU alums like Starrick Smith and what he's done with his content platforms, The Hungry Black Man, and building out brands that are emphasizing and highlighting extraordinary Black entrepreneurs in our South Florida in the culinary space. I mean, it's a wide universe of creators and entrepreneurs that are here. So it's our moment. And I think FIU, I don't want to overstate it, because it means we have to work every single day to establish our relevance, to build that connectivity. But I'm very, very bullish, as it is, I think, everybody who's part of FIU, from our president to our faculty to our deans, everyone is all in, and most especially our students, our alumni, and our partners.
So 2020 was obviously a very troubling year. A lot of people were hurt, had issues. A lot of people thrived. How do you see what inspiration? Because you are obviously a growth mindseted guy. You have tremendous energy. People just gravitate towards you because you're so excited about the future. What can you tell the people that are out there that perhaps aren't as excited or a bit, worried? Because I think what we think about is what we end up manifesting, right? And what we attract. And so, what message do you have for those people that perhaps don't see the light at the end of the tunnel or aren't as excited? Because I think if they start opening up their eyes, looking at everything that FIU is doing, everything that's going on in our community, they can get excited. They can find those opportunities for advancement and growth and career opportunities out there.
So, I mean, that's a great question. And I'm so glad that you asked it, Sergio. The first and foremost thing that I would say to those folks is that you are not alone. If you are at a point in the journey where you feel like you're stuck, or you feel like opportunities might not be coming your way, you are not alone. There is an entire universe of people that are in South Florida that are committed to helping people. We might not have all of the answers, but it might very well be that we connect them to someone. I've connected students that along the way to you, Sergio, that might be looking for some career advice. So first thing that I would say to people is that you're not alone. There are other people that are out there in our ecosystem in South Florida that will lean in. They will help you. I've seen somebody like my boss, President Rosenberg, do that time and time and again. Secondly, I think it's important that we be kind to ourselves. We think a lot about kindness, and we think about the power of gratitude, but sometimes we forget. I have a friend who recently came on one of our FIU programs, and she said that, we have to put ourselves on the list as far as wellness and mental health. Sometimes we're so focused on others. And that being kind also means that if we're dealing with a health issue, if we're dealing with some fogginess in our mental health, let's also recognize that positive psychology alone isn't going to get us where we need to be. Sometimes it requires us to actually check in with somebody who is a specialized professional to get us to where we want to go. So I want to throw those two things out there. First of all, you're not alone. Secondly, you can reach out and you can get some help from people that can help you. But the third thing is, I would say, is for people that might not be able to find the light or to see the light. I would say part of the pandemic reality is there's so many platforms and spaces to get engaged, to get involved, to listen and to learn. You and I were talking before we went live about an audio platform like Clubhouse, which is a free app. It's an audio chat room. Become a member of a platform like that, and you can listen and learn. Maybe you go into a Clubhouse room that's about entrepreneurship, women-started businesses, or business challenges and raising capital for Black-owned businesses, or any manner of things. So there are more resources out there that are free than ever before. You and I remember the world before this, Sergio. Every conference you wanted to go to was $1,000, or you had to fly to New York, or you had to go to LA. You had to spend time away from friends and family. And now there's so much content. There's so much social capital that's available to us veritably for free. So a lot of it is about going out there. And then the other thing I would say to people is, like, also tell your story. It's important. If we don't tell our own story, nobody else will. And, and it doesn't have to be the airbrushed version of everything being awesome. The Lego movie song, everything is awesome. Maybe the song can be everything is not awesome. But on the other side of that, I have a friend, and he or she might wind up saying, hey, I know you're facing a challenge, and you've got a great product, but you don't know about sales, or you're really strong in sales, but you need to perfect your product, or you're thinking about a career pivot. There's more help out there than most of us realize. And I try to underscore that. And I tell people in my network that anybody who I'm connected to, I will connect them to. And I want to give that. And that's part of a commitment that I have. And I render that on the daily, joyfully, as part of my role in building partnerships with the FIU's Office of Engagement, and even just beyond, as somebody who loves this community and everything it's made possible for me and my family.
So, and being a connector, giving authentically, that's all tremendous. Also, accountability, having an accountability partner and controlling the amount of media and of the quality of media that you let in, right? I mean, we turn on the news, it's all disaster and death and politics and breaks, everything's broken. But in our world, I noticed that for the most part, everyone's trying to be positive, trying to do their best. And there's a lot of good happening out there. So I think it's important also to control and, give that minimum effective dose of news that you need just to, to get by, to do your job, whatever it is. But be very careful and conscientious about what information you're letting in, because it will, cause, clutter in your mind. You'll lose clarity, you'll lose direction and motivation.
I think you're completely right. And I think it also goes to the idea of who's in your circle. Who are those people that are around you? In addition to your loved ones, who are those other people? Are they helping you level up? Are you helping them level up? What are the types of things that you're sharing with them? Are you pushing out interesting articles, interesting videos, things that can help them sharpen their skill sets? Are you in these learning circles? And sometimes people think about these as these very formalized networks, and we're all part of these text exchanges with different friends or colleagues. I think that this is really important. I mean, Sergio, you and I exchange information all the time like that. You might say, hey, here's a really great HBR article, or like, I saw this TED Talk. It was really awesome. You should check it out. And I know that Gamechangers, a big part of what you're trying to do really as a community service, is that you're amplifying voices so people can make sure that they get connected to, so they might be able to learn more about somebody that comes on one of your programs, or, does a little bit of research on a really great book that they've read. I mean, my wife and I are deeply committed to reading. I mean, it's a great joy of ours. She does a lot more than I do, but I really do try, and I draw comfort and inspiration in that quiet time in my evenings when I'm reading. And I think it's something that has enabled me, you find your tribe of other people that share a love of learning. And from there, you go to another place. You wind up being able to have conversations about things that are part of your shared passion beyond the obvious, what are you barbecuing on the grill? What's your favorite, place to get churrasco when, the pandemic is not raging, or some other thing, which are important. Those are fun, or the Dolphin football game. But I think it's also great to be able to say to a friend, like, what's the best biography you've read recently? What's the best book on strategy you've read? What's the best novel you've read? And being able to then go back to them and say, hey, I read that book. It was really good. That character, even within art, we can draw so much. And that's why Miami's strength with Art Basel and all these other things around us, those are the things that don't just feed our mind, they feed our souls. And I think it's important that we're leveling up with people that can help us with those types of things. And I think it allows us to build out a more rich version of ourselves, not only in service of others, but also in service of our own journey as human beings, to become more fully actualized and realizing our potential, and to channel our better angels.
Having a community of accountability and support is so important. And to that point, I'm starting a Game Changers challenge that's going to take off at the end of the month. That it does exactly that. It's a 6-week challenge on a platform called Enjoy that offers that accountability, that coaching, that group support for over 6 weeks to really start ramping up and hitting your goals. So, my brother, thank you so much for being on. You are an inspiration to our community and nationwide. You're a pillar in this community, man. And so thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you, brother. Pause up. Thank you.
Pause up. If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it.